Respect is not something you chase. It's something you become worthy of. And today, I'm going to share the two things you must remove from your life if you truly want to earn it, not just from the world, but from yourself. Stay with me until the end, because the final lessons will shift how you see power, confidence, and your entire future. Respect is not something you chase. It's something you become worthy of. And today I'm going to share the two things you must remove from your life if you truly want to earn it, not just from the world, but from yourself. Stay with me until the end, because the final lessons will shift how you see power, confidence, and your entire future. The moment you start seeking approval, you begin negotiating with your own worth. And I say this not as a theory, but as a truth I have lived. There was a time when I walked into rooms that felt bigger than me, louder than me, rooms where I could feel the unspoken question floating in the air. Does she belong here? And instead of answering that question with my presence, I tried to answer it with performance. I adjusted my tone. I softened my opinions. I reshaped my edges so they would be easier to hold. And on the outside, it looked graceful. It looked diplomatic. But on the inside, it felt like erosion. Like standing at the edge of the ocean and allowing every wave to take a piece of you away. You see, approval is seductive. It claps for you. It smiles at you. It gives you temporary validation that feels like warmth in a cold room. But it is borrowed warmth. It fades the moment you stop pleasing the crowd. And the most dangerous part, when you depend on approval, you slowly disconnect from your internal compass. You start asking, will they like this? Instead of, is this true to me? You measure your value in applause instead of alignment. And let me tell you something. Applause is loud, but alignment is powerful. Applause disappears. Alignment builds empires. Think about a tree for a moment. A tree does not ask the forest for permission to grow taller. It does not apologize for taking up space. It does not shrink because another tree is taller. It simply grows toward the light it knows is meant for it. And yet we, as human beings, blessed with consciousness and spirit, sometimes choose to shrink ourselves just to avoid making someone uncomfortable. Why? Because somewhere along the way, we were taught that being liked is safer than being authentic. But safety is not the same as respect. You might be liked for being agreeable. You might be praised for being compliant. But you will only be respected when you are anchored. I remember moments in my career when the easier choice would have been to blend in, to follow the script that others had written for someone who looked like me, sounded like me, came from where I came from. It would have earned quick approval. It would have kept everyone comfortable. But comfort does not create legacy. Discomfort does. Growth does. Courage does. And courage begins the moment you are willing to disappoint someone else rather than betray yourself. That is a spiritual decision. It is an inner awakening where you realize that your life is not a public opinion poll. It is a sacred responsibility. When you wake up every morning needing validation, you hand your power to strangers. Your mood depends on their reactions. Your confidence depends on their compliments. Your peace depends on their agreement. That is not freedom. That is emotional dependency dressed up as humility. True humility is knowing who you are without shouting about it. True confidence is standing firm without explaining yourself into exhaustion. And we'll go deeper into that soon because the lessons ahead are even more powerful. Stay with me until the final points, or you'll regret missing them. But right now, understand this. When you remove the need for approval, something extraordinary happens. Your voice steadies, your decisions sharpen, your presence deepens. You stop performing and start living. You stop negotiating and start embodying. And people can feel that shift before you even speak. Because respect is an energy exchange. When you respect yourself enough to trust your instincts, to honor your boundaries, to pursue your calling without constant reassurance, the world senses that solidity. It may resist at first. It may question you. But eventually, it recalibrates around the frequency you set. Approval asks, am I enough for them? Self-respect declares, I am enough, period. And here is the paradox. The less you chase approval, the more naturally it arrives. Not because you are trying harder, but because you are finally standing in your truth. So if you have ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or misunderstood, I want you to ask yourself gently, where am I still seeking permission? Where am I shrinking to fit into rooms I've already outgrown? Removing the need for approval is not rebellion. It is alignment. It is the quiet decision to choose authenticity over applause, purpose over popularity, integrity over imitation. And this is just the beginning. What comes next will challenge you even more deeply. And if this truth stirred something inside you, wait until you hear what follows. There is a subtle habit that quietly weakens your presence, and most people don't even realize they're doing it. Over-explaining. Over-explaining your decisions, your boundaries, your dreams. You know it often comes from a good place. You want to be understood. You want to be fair. You want to avoid conflict. But when you constantly feel the need to justify yourself, what you are really saying underneath it all is, I'm not sure my choice is enough on its own. And the world listens to that hesitation. I remember moments when I would share a bold decision, taking on a new direction, stepping into unfamiliar territory, choosing a path that didn't fit the traditional script, and before anyone even questioned me, I was already defending it. I would explain the reasons, the strategy, the safety nets, the logic behind it. I thought I was being responsible. What I was actually doing was diluting my conviction. Confidence doesn't shout. It doesn't flood the room with explanations. It stands calmly, like a mountain. A mountain doesn't explain why it stands tall. It doesn't apologize for blocking the wind. It simply exists in its full height. When you are rooted in your truth, your decisions carry that same quiet authority. But when you over-explain, you chip away at that authority piece by piece. You turn a simple, this is what I have chosen, into a courtroom argument, where you're both the lawyer and the defendant. And here's the deeper truth. People trust clarity. They respect certainty. If you hesitate about your own path, they will hesitate too. If you treat your decision like it needs validation, they will assume it does. This doesn't mean you become arrogant or dismissive. It means you become anchored. There is a difference between sharing your reasoning and pleading for approval. One comes from openness. The other comes from insecurity. And insecurity, even when wrapped in politeness, is felt. I've seen it in professional spaces, in relationships, even within families. Someone sets a boundary and then immediately softens it with paragraphs of explanation. I can't make it tonight. I'm just really tired, and I have so much going on, and I didn't sleep well, and I promise I'm not upset. By the time they finish explaining, the boundary has already lost its strength. A simple, respectful, I won't be able to make it, would have carried more power. When you over-explain, you teach people that your no is negotiable. You teach them that if they push a little harder, you might bend. and respect cannot grow in soil that is constantly shifting. Spiritually, this comes down to trust. Trust in your inner voice. Trust that the whisper inside you, guiding your choices, is valid, even if it doesn't make sense to everyone else. Not everyone is meant to understand why. Our calling. Not everyone is meant to see the full picture you see. And that's okay. Clarity is your responsibility. Agreement is not. There was a moment in my journey when I realized that every time I explained myself excessively, I was trying to control how others perceived me. I wanted them to see me as smart, strategic, thoughtful, kind, but perception is not fully yours to control. Integrity is. The more I practiced speaking with calm certainty, stating my vision without attaching a defense to it, the more my presence shifted. Conversations became shorter, sharper, more respectful. People leaned in differently. They sensed that I wasn't seeking permission. I was simply informing them of my direction. And here's something powerful. When you stop over-explaining, you create space. Space for curiosity. Space for mystery. Space for strength. You allow your words to land without burying them under layers of justification. Of course, there will be times when explanation is necessary. Leadership requires communication. But even then, it comes from a place of clarity, not fear. You're explaining to build understanding, not to secure acceptance. If this is touching something inside you, pay attention. Because what we are uncovering now is only the surface. The lessons ahead are even more powerful. Stay until the final points, or you'll regret missing them. This journey is about reclaiming your authority piece by piece, and removing the habit of over-explaining is one of the most liberating steps you can take. Imagine walking into every room knowing that your decisions don't need a sales pitch. Imagine saying yes with enthusiasm and no with grace, and leaving it there. That is presence. That is power. That is self-respect in action. And when you embody that consistently, the world begins to mirror it back to you. Comparison is one of the most silent forms of self-rejection, and it often disguises itself as motivation. You tell yourself you're just observing, just learning, just measuring where you stand. But slowly, almost invisibly, you begin shrinking your own journey to fit someone else's timeline. I felt this too, in rooms filled with extraordinary talent. In industries that celebrate rankings and numbers, it's easy to look sideways and wonder, am I doing enough? Am I far enough? Am I successful enough? And the moment that question becomes louder than your inner voice, comparison has already taken the driver's seat. The danger isn't that someone else is ahead. The danger is that you begin believing their path is the standard for yours. Imagine running a marathon and constantly turning your head to see who's beside you. You lose rhythm, you lose breath, you lose focus. And sometimes you trip, not because you weren't capable, but because you weren't centered. Life is not a synchronized race. It's a deeply personal pilgrimage. Some people bloom at 20, others at 40. Some build quietly for years before the world even notices, and some seem to rise overnight, but you don't see the years of unseen work beneath that overnight moment. Social media has made comparison almost automatic. You scroll through curated victories, filtered joy, polished success. You see someone buying a home, launching a company, getting married, traveling the world, and suddenly your steady progress feels small. But what you're comparing is your behind-the-scenes reality to someone else's highlight reel. That is not truth. That is illusion. Spiritually, comparison disconnects you from gratitude. It shifts your focus from what is growing in your life to what appears to be flourishing elsewhere. Gratitude expands you. Comparison contracts you. And respect, especially self-respect, cannot grow in contraction. I remember a period when I was juggling global transitions, navigating unfamiliar industries, learning new systems, facing criticism in public spaces. There were moments when it would have been easy to look at someone else's stability and feel behind